24 female. I've been dating my 28-year-old boyfriend for the last 2 years in a long-distance relationship. Our conservative families have always joked about us being a good match, and although I never took it seriously, I found myself liking him when we first met at a family event. Since we knew our families supported us, we decided to date. Then he had to go to the US for his master's degree, so we only dated for a couple of months before he left, and we ended up in a long-distance relationship. During this long-distance phase, I found myself falling in love with him and often fantasized about him. In my real life, I turned down many other potential suitors because I was already mentally committed to him. Now, after 2 years, he has returned, and it seems like he and his family are serious about our marriage. And things are moving way too fast, and I'm not sure about marrying him after realizing how different we are from each other. His personality is a puzzle to me. He shows interest in me physically during virtual conversations, but when we're together, he's way too shy that he won't even initiate a kiss. And when we do kiss, he won't proceed beyond it. I haven't thought of going too far till intercourse or intimacy, but I live in a fantasy that he will make love to me. And when he's close to me, I expect him to kiss me all over. But he won't. And when I asked him why, he said he wants to take physical things slow. I can't insist on this because I don't want to come off as a deviant. Apart from this, he is simple and calm, but our natures are very different. I did not realize this as much during long-distance relationship, but now when we are meeting often and spending time together, I notice this. I expect someone who can talk and express their feelings, especially when there's a conflict. I want to sit down, discuss problems, and find solutions together. Instead, he tends to avoid such conversations or ignore me when I'm upset or annoyed. When I share my feelings or expectations, he doesn't respond. And if he's upset, he won't contact me for some time. When he does come back, he acts as if nothing happened, which irritates me even more. Now, you might suggest that I break up with him and move on, but it's not that simple. He's the first guy I've ever fallen in love with, and there's no specific reason why I'm in love with him. If I don't talk to him for 1 or 2 days, I can't focus on anything at all. My mind doesn't let me break up with him, and our family connections are also very deep. I tried to talk to him about how I want things, but he is just the way he is, and there's no change. I don't understand what to do. I want him to change his communication sense, be more sexually bold. And that's few things I expect, but it's not happening. I tried to communicate many times, but nothing changes. Just 2 days ago, I was trying to discuss about our parents being way too excited since he returned from US, and it's already been 2-3 months post that. And they have been talking about our engagement and planning it without any idea about what's happening between us. We discussed that this is happening way too fast, and even though he agreed with me, he is not stopping his parents to postpone it, or at least be brave enough to take the situation in control. And my parents will never listen to me, or aren't liberal enough to understand our issues, especially intimate problems and our compatibility problems, as they are happy to find someone in the same religion. I had been feeling a lot of pressure lately and felt like I wasn't in control. 3 days ago, we met for dinner, and I brought up the topic of whether we should have intimacy. I was shocked when his response was, "I don't know what to say," and "I am blank." I tried to lighten the mood by jokingly asking if he had any intimacy problems or if it was the size, but he didn't respond, not a word. I was in shock by his manner of response to my question. We finished our dinner in silence, and I confronted him over text, but he just said goodnight. The next day, he messaged me at 2 p.m. and sent me a gift, completely ignoring our previous discussion and the reason we fought. I felt like this was the last straw, so I confronted him one last time, but he hasn't responded to my message and has vanished completely. I don't understand what's going on in his head. Whatever's going is making me sad. It's confusing and frustrating for me. Can anyone tell what is going on in his head? I don't understand what he wants. He does not want to work on problems. He does not want to break up. I'm not mentally prepared to break up with him either. I want to make it work and solve the problem. Please suggest. Now, for a few comments before the update. Comment 1. Being obsessed with someone doesn't mean it's love. What you're feeling is infatuation. What you're figuring out is that your feelings aren't matching reality. You need to start prioritizing your reality and resetting your feelings to match. Before you even figure out if you are sexually compatible, you need to figure out if you are mentally, emotionally, and spiritually compatible. Having intimacy with this person will confuse you and him even more. You already said you are noticing differences. You are noticing that your expectations versus actuality are different. You already said you don't match. So, stop moving forward with this person. The only way to calm down your feelings with the wrong person is to date other people. You decide to put your life on hold, on purpose, and built up a relationship that doesn't exist in your head. You need a reality check and to stop hyper-focusing on someone who isn't your match. Move on, date other people, get some experience. Let this guy grow up a bit. Comment 2. This sounds like limerence on your part. The state of being obsessively infatuated with someone, usually accompanied by delusions of or a desire for an intense romantic relationship with that person. You're in love with the idea of him, not who he is. His behavior is incompatible with how you want a partner to behave. He doesn't communicate well. He can't resolve conflicts in a healthy way. He ignores your needs. He doesn't reassure you, and he doesn't value your feelings or show you respect. This isn't a man you should marry. Tell your parents you are no longer interested in marrying him and end the relationship. Now, for the update, thanks for all the comments on my last post. So, things have escalated since then, and not in a good way. Remember how I said our families were planning our engagement without really knowing what was going on between us? Well, they went ahead and set a date without even asking us. I found out when my aunt casually mentioned it during a family dinner. I was floored. I tried to talk to him about it, but he just shrugged and said, "What can we do?" Like he had no say in his own life. It's like he's just going along with whatever his parents want. And it's driving me nuts. I mean, shouldn't he have a backbone? Then, out of the blue, his ex-girlfriend showed up. Yeah, the one he never mentioned, but apparently dated for years before me. She came back into town, and suddenly he's got all the time in the world for her. They've been catching up over coffee, lunch, you name it. When I asked him about it, he said they were just friends, but who's he kidding? I felt like I was losing my mind, so I did something I'm not proud of. I snooped on his phone, and guess what? There were messages from her that were definitely not just friendly. They were planning to meet up at a hotel. A hotel. Can you believe that? I confronted him, and he had the nerve to say it was all a misunderstanding. That they were just meeting there because it was convenient. Right. Convenient for what? I didn't even want to know. But here's the kicker. I found out that his ex is actually the daughter of his dad's business partner, and their parents have been trying to get them back together to merge the families even more. It's like I'm in some twisted soap opera where everyone's got a hidden agenda. I was so angry, I told him we needed to take a break. I needed space to think. But then his mom called me, crying, saying how I was breaking the family apart. She said that if I left him, it would ruin their business plans. I couldn't believe it. Was this all just a business deal to them? And just when I thought things couldn't get any worse, my own parents sat me down. They told me they had invested money with his family's company, and if I backed out of the marriage, they'd lose everything. I felt trapped, like my whole relationship was just a pawn in their financial games. I don't know what to do anymore. I feel like I've been manipulated from the start, and the worst part is, I still care about him. But I can't shake the feeling that I'm just a piece in everyone else's plans. It's like I'm living someone else's life, and I don't know how to get mine back, so that's where I'm at. Stuck with a big decision with a fiancé who might still have feelings for his ex, and families that care more about money than our happiness. Thanks for reading. Aita for forgiving my girlfriend. After she canceled my hobby sessions to spend more time with me, recently my girlfriend Rachel of 4 years wanted to go to some couples counseling as part of a kind of checkup before we started moving on to the next major steps in our relationship. We have had 5 sessions in total now, and if anything, I feel this has negatively impacted the relationship. I'm trying to figure out if this is just a case of me being dramatic over things or reasonable. I'm going to use one particular issue when giving examples, but just know that that is not the only issue this has occurred with. It is just convenient to use. One of the issues that has come up is regular disagreements around a hobby I do twice a week, on the same days every week for about 90 minutes each. Our counselor asked us to describe each other's feelings on the disagreement, whether or not we agreed with it, so we could try and work from there. This is what the counselor does with any topic we bring up, and to me, it seems very useful. My description of Rachel's perspective was, Rachel is disappointed with the lack of dedicated time spent on our relationship as the relationship has progressed. Feels like there has been less of an effort for couple events, dinners, dates, etc. The consistency in upbeat contracts' external hobby adds to this disappointment. We discussed if this was a fair reflection of her perspective, and Rachel said it was. Rachel's description of my perspective was, upbeat_contract prefers to spend time on the external hobby over time on the relationship. I obviously don't feel this is a fair reflection of my perspective, and it required me providing multiple examples of me proactively arranging surprises and dates, which frequently included skipping my external hobby before there is any kind of acknowledgement that the description isn't accurate, finally getting it to upbeat_contract would like to maintain his external hobby whilst dedicating time to putting effort into the relationship. It was somewhat heartening that the counselor largely agreed when these situations have come up, but it has tended to seem like she feels I have the most selfish or dismissive perspectives coming into any of these discussions. After we had these definitions, the counselor asked if we could work on a method for trying to satisfy both statements with the lowest amount of compromise to both sides. This resulted in the idea that we would dedicate 2 nights a week to date nights on the days I am not doing my hobby. But if there was ever an exceptional reason that it made sense to have a date night on one of the hobby evenings, not possible to do any other days, specific event happening on those days, then that would take precedence. We both agreed to this, however. After the session, Rachel made it clear she wasn't actually happy with this compromise, and that she didn't expect me to remain so firm on my hobby. We have been following this solution for 5 weeks, and in that time, Rachel has requested we do a date night on one of my hobby nights every week, sometimes twice, and regularly with no real reason. It now feels like my description of her perspective was not very accurate at all, and that she simply does not want me to spend time away from her. Rachel also seems to have begun exaggerating or being dishonest in counseling sessions before falling back to an I feel statement. We discussed feeling statements in counseling, and I understand the idea. However, she seems to have a tendency to load them with inaccurate info. Example relevant to above, we haven't been on a date in over a month, and I feel it shows a lack of interest from you. When I point out that we have actually gone on 4 dates in the last month, it was met with, the important thing is how I feel it shows a lack of interest. I will say that in a lot of instances within the counseling sessions, the counselor seems to not take a side too much and remain pretty unbiased while being able to address things with us. And I actually really find some of the sessions and the ideas from them useful. But after the sessions, Rachel can sometimes seem very bothered by them. I was largely pretty happy before entering these counseling sessions, but agreed to it because Rachel wanted to do it. However, if anything, the relationship itself now seems worse after them. Now, for a few comments before the update. Comment 1, we both agreed to this. However, after the session, Rachel made it clear she wasn't actually happy with this compromise, and that she didn't expect me to remain so firm on my hobby. 1. Something that needs to be addressed is that Rachel agreed to something that she didn't really want to agree to. That is not the mature way to handle conflict, and she should be held accountable for that. I don't mean hold her to her original agreement, but I think the bad habit of agreeing to something that you don't really want should be discussed in couples counseling. I would hope that through discussion of this bad habit, the two of you can commit to working through conflicts honestly. 2. I think the more accurate description of Rachel's position is that something about this hobby makes you less attractive to her, and she wishes you engaged in it less. I suspect she doesn't want to be married to a man who does this hobby twice a week. This may not be something she has really been able to articulate to herself. Something else to discuss in couples counseling. Comment 2. Rachel went for validation and is upset that therapy is highlighting her flaws. Tell your therapist that she isn't holding her side. Make her justify trying to break the agreement every single week. It's possible that with consistent pressure and a strong framework, she will give up on being selfish and settle into the new pattern. However, couples therapy is pretty much designed to drive problems like these to the surface. It's better for it to come out now in a neutrally supported setting than for her to explode with unhappiness a year from now, because it's been festering the whole time. If this does end up breaking you, you would have broken up anyway. Therapy just made it cleaner and quicker. Now, for the update, thanks for all the comments on my last post. So this week has been pretty up and down, and not the fun kind. It started with Rachel doing something that really got under my skin. She went behind my back and canceled my hobby sessions for the next month, claiming it was for a surprise vacation she was planning for us. I found out when I showed up and they told me I was no longer booked. I was livid, to say the least. I confronted her about it and she broke down, confessing that there was no vacation. She just wanted more time with me, and she thought if my hobby was out of the picture, I'd have no choice but to spend that time with her. It was manipulative, and it hurt. I felt betrayed, and it was hard to see past that. But then, the next day, her mom called me. Rachel had never told me much about her childhood, but her mom spilled everything. Turns out, Rachel's dad had been the same way with his hobbies, except he never came back from them. He'd leave for days, and when he did come home, he wasn't really there. Her mom said Rachel had always been scared of being left behind, and now I understood her actions a bit better. It didn't excuse what she did, but it made me see her desperation. I was still angry, but I decided to forgive her. I couldn't hold it against her forever, especially now that I knew where her fear was coming from. We talked it out, and I agreed to cut back on my hobby, not because she tricked me into it, but because I realized she needed reassurance. Just when I thought we were on the mend, another bomb dropped. Rachel's ex, who I always thought was out of the picture, showed up out of nowhere. He claimed he was just in town for business, but the way he looked at Rachel said otherwise. She assured me there was nothing to worry about, but I could tell she was shaken up by his sudden appearance. The next thing I knew, Rachel was acting distant, and I had a hunch her ex was the reason. I did something I'm not proud of. I checked her phone, and there it was, a message from him, suggesting they meet up for old times' sake. I felt sick to my stomach. I confronted her, and she admitted she was considering it, not because she had feelings for him, but because she was confused about us. I was ready to walk away right then and there, but then she did something unexpected. She showed up at my next hobby session, the one she'd canceled, and she had rebooked it herself. She said she realized how important it was to me, and that she didn't want to be the person who took that away. She also told me she'd told her ex to stay out of her life for good. It was a gesture that meant a lot, and it showed me she was willing to work on her issues. It wasn't easy to move past the jealousy and the lies, but I decided to try. We're not out of the woods yet, but we're taking it one day at a time. Thanks for reading. Aita for wanting to teach my kid chores instead of hiring a cleaning service, like my wife secretly did. My wife is pregnant with our first child, and we are discussing how to handle some situations in the future. The only thing we haven't agreed on is chores. She was an only child, and her mom was a stay-at-home mom who handled all the cleaning and cooking. The only thing she was ever responsible for was her bedroom. And even then, her mom would do a deep clean and organize it for her every few months. She just had to maintain it. She admittedly did not, hence why her mom had to get it back in order every few months. Most of my childhood, I was raised by a single mom with my twin sister. We always did chores together. It's weird, but I look back on that time fondly. On Friday, she would have a mom's night, and we'd go stay at Grandma's. On Saturday, we'd spend the whole day doing something fun with Mom. On Sunday, we'd deep clean together. We would also help throughout the week with basic upkeep, like cleaning up after meals and doing laundry. When I was nearing 10 years old, my mom remarried and had a baby. She relaxed on making us clean, and then in our teen years, it became a battle. We didn't want to do anything and fought her so hard about the bare minimum she asked us to do. When I moved out on my own, I had to do some soul searching to relearn the cleaning we did on those big cleaning Sundays with Mom. Now, I'm pretty much the cleaning manager of our house. My wife will clean, but I have to prepare her and we have to do it together. She never takes it upon herself to initiate cleaning anything. She gets frustrated when I say we need to clean the kitchen before leaving the house. I'm talking about food on the counter, pet food scattered across the floor, trash overflowing. We came up with a system for dishes. Run the dishwasher every evening and empty it first thing in the morning, so we can just load dirty dishes as we use them. No leaving them in the sink. The dishwasher will be completely empty, and she still leaves dishes in the sink. Same with laundry. We agreed that it's fine to leave clothes in the dryer for a bit, but we have to fold them and put them away once they come out. She will get frustrated that I insist we fold them before bed. She will literally push them to the bottom corner and say it's fine to sleep like that. All of that to say, I don't think she's great at doing chores. Not a huge deal. I'm not perfect either. We all have our strengths and weaknesses. But my pause is that she wants to raise our child like her in regards to chores. She thinks kids should be kids and not have to upkeep the house. She says it's our responsibility to clean it, because we'd have to clean it regardless of a kid being there or not. That's true and all, but I just think it's important to teach our child how to clean. So it's not a shock when they are on their own. I would never expect our child to clean for us, but I want them to clean with us. We left the conversation alone for right now, but I do want to bring it up again. I'm just unsure of how to go about it. Saying our kids need to learn chores because you didn't and now you are bad at it will piss her off at best and hurt her feelings at worst. Is there a way to politely get this point across? Any advice on how you handled chores that worked well with your kids? Oh, and also, she thinks she is good at chores, so that's hard to manage as well. Like I said, she does clean when I initiate and do it with her, but I think that still has its faults. Now, for a few comments before the update. Comment 1. Does she read parenting books? Hunt, Gather, Parent might be a good book to read together, and discuss what parts of it you'd like to incorporate into your own parenting. I think the most compelling argument you can make is that when you cleaned with your mom, it was fun family together time, not, I have to do work. Emphasize that you do want your kids to get to be kids, but that they might really enjoy the experience of cleaning with mommy and daddy, especially when they're very young. My toddler loves sweeping with his little toy broom, while I sweep with the big broom and helping me out with other chores, because he loves feeling involved and helping. Comment 2. Kids should have some level of discipline, and doing chores is a good way to teach that. You don't have to make it dull and have them live their entire lives doing chores, and you can make it fun and gamify it for them. Doing it together with them can also be a bonding exercise, because if they don't do anything, they become reliant on you for everything. And before you know it, you have helpless 18-year-olds who are more than capable of living more independently, but still expect you to do everything for them, even making a sandwich. And they will literally sit around doing nothing, waiting for you to do it before they would do it themselves. Now, for the update. Thanks for sticking around for the latest. So, the other day, my wife's friend, let's call her Jane, came over. Jane's always been a bit of a rough card, but this time she really stirred the pot. She saw the dishes in the sink and made a snide comment about how our house looked like a before picture in a cleaning ad. My wife laughed it off, but I could tell she was embarrassed. Now, Jane's the type who never had to lift a finger at home. Her parents spoiled her rotten, and it shows. She's got this idea that hiring help is the only way to manage a house, and she's been pushing that idea onto my wife. I'm not against getting help, but I believe in doing what you can yourself, especially when it's about setting an example for your kids. After Jane left, my wife and I had a talk. She was feeling down, saying maybe Jane was right, that we should just hire someone. I reminded her of our budget with the baby coming and all, but she was adamant that we could cut corners elsewhere. The tension was thick. I didn't want to argue, but I also didn't want to give in to this idea that we couldn't handle our own home. I suggested a compromise. Let's try to stick to our system for a month. And if it's still not working, we'll reconsider. That night, I caught my wife secretly texting Jane, probably complaining about me and the chores. It stung, but I let it slide. I figured it was just venting, and everyone needs that sometimes. A few days passed, and things seemed to be improving. My wife was actually taking the initiative to clean up more often. But then, I found a receipt for a cleaning service booked for the next week. She hadn't said a word to me about it. When I confronted her, she got defensive, saying she just wanted to relieve some of our stress. I felt betrayed. We had agreed to try our system, and here she was, going behind my back. It was a blow to our trust, and I told her as much. She apologized, but the damage was done. We had to sit down and really hash things out. I explained that it wasn't just about the cleaning, but about trust and communication. She admitted that she felt overwhelmed and ashamed that she wasn't as good at keeping house as I was. It was a tough conversation, but it was necessary. We canceled the cleaning service and decided to give our system another shot. This time, we made a detailed schedule and assigned specific tasks to each other. My wife agreed to give it her all, and I promised to be more patient and understanding. It's been a week since that talk, and things are looking up. My wife's been sticking to the schedule, and I've been making sure to acknowledge her efforts. We're both learning and growing through this, and I'm hopeful that we'll find our rhythm before the baby arrives. As for Jane, she's been less present lately. Maybe she got the hint that her comments weren't helpful. Or maybe she's just busy. Either way, I'm glad for the quiet. It's given my wife and me the space to work on our issues without outside interference. We're not perfect, but we're trying, and that's what counts. I'm just hoping we can keep this up and that our child will grow up in a home where chores are a shared responsibility, not a source of conflict. Thanks for reading. If you like this video, you'll probably like these too. Also, while you're here, please consider subscribing. It's your support that keeps this channel alive and allows me to make better and longer videos. Have a great day.